The current changing exhibit at the Nevada State Museum in Las Vegas explores the old Spanish Trail, a segment of which traversed the southern portion of the state near Las Vegas. The exhibit is available until May 12th, 2025. When the Spanish arrived in the southwestern United States in the 16th century, there was already a network of footpaths created by the indigenous people. These trails covered what is now southwest Colorado, northwest New Mexico, southern Utah, northern Arizona, and the lower tip of Nevada, and south to California. Santa Fe, New Mexico was an established pueblo by 1776. Priests Francisco Dominguez and Silvestre Escalante left Santa Fe in July 1776 in an attempt to reach the settlements in Monterey, California. The route that they pioneered through northern New Mexico, western Colorado, and southern Utah became known as part of the northern route of the old Spanish Trail. The less than direct route that they chose was made to avoid the hostile Hopi tribes and to avoid the geographic obstacles imposed by the Grand Canyon. They traveled as far west as Provo Lake. An early winter snowfall and the likelihood of snow-packed mountain passes to the west convinced the group to return to Santa Fe. After the Mexican independence from Spain in 1821, there was renewed interest in a direct trade route between New Mexico and Los Angeles. In 1829, Mexican trader Antonio Armijo led the first commercial caravan from Abiquiu, New Mexico to Los Angeles. The path he chose was more direct than those used by the Spanish priests. Over the next 15 years, his 1,000-mile route was used in part to carry woolen goods made in Santa Fe to Los Angeles, which were then traded for horses and mules. In 1844, John C. Fremont traversed a modified trail that was more suited for wagon travel. It was Fremont who dubbed this route the Old Spanish Trail. The trek was made annually, leaving Santa Fe in November with 20 to 200 men and nearly twice as many mules loaded down with goods to trade. They would reach California in early February. After spending a month to rest and sell their wares, they would head east again in April, hoping they were not too late to still find water in the desert, and the large rivers would still be shallow enough to cross. If the trade was successful, they would be making their return with several hundred horses and mules. Those using the trail could be just as treacherous as the trail itself. Several raids were made in California to steal horses. Slave traders captured indigenous women and children to sell to Mexican ranchers, and there was always the threat of attack by local Indian tribes. Though the old Spanish Trail was difficult and perilous, once being called the longest, crookedest, most arduous pack mule route in the history of America, the benefits could not be ignored. It gave landlocked New Mexico access to the ports of Los Angeles and cemented Los Angeles as a center for trade. After much research, trail enthusiasts and historians in each of the states traversed by branches of the trail made a joint proposal to the National Park Service to add the old Spanish Trail to the National Trails system. Initially, the Park Service denied the importance of the Spanish Trail, stating that it did not have sufficient impact on the making of America. The various trail organizations next appealed to their congressmen, and in 2001, the Park Service was ordered to do a feasibility study. This time, the study concluded that the trail did qualify as a National Historic Trail. In early December, the bill passed both houses of Congress and was signed into law by President George W. Bush on December 4th, 2002, as the Old Spanish Trail Recognition Act. Okay, this is the exhibit of the Old Spanish Trail at the Nevada State Museum. The Old Spanish Trail was a route that went from Santa Fe or Albuquerque to Los Angeles. At that time, the Mexicans would trade furs and blankets and woolen objects for horses and mules in Mexico, in Los Angeles, rather. I'm getting distracted, too many people here now. So the exhibit includes things like the clothing that was worn there. Again, this little coat is a child's abrigo, or white riding coat. This is what a typical saddle would look like. I doubt if they would take this on the Old Spanish Trail. This is more decorative and probably belonged to a wealthy landowner. And some of the other items that they might have used at that time. That looks like a black powder pistol. And there's a powder horn in here, so probably it was. And a long rifle. I'm not sure what the rifle is. But maybe some of you know what it is. Navajo slave blankets. And this is Walcara, a Ute warrior. We used to deal in this slave trade along the Old Spanish Trail. And this is an interesting see a Ute warrior and his bride on horseback, northwestern Utah, from the Powell survey. Ute moccasins, circa 19th century, and a mortar next to it. Interesting. And other items that the Native Americans might have used, like this shirt with the decorations of glass beads and the basket weaving as shown here. This is supposed to be a saddle cover or a mochila. And this one belonged to Don Jose Antonio Yorba, who was a prominent Californio landowner. So that must be where Yorba Linda is named after. Yep, sure. The city of Yorba Linda is named after the family. He was one of the largest landowners and most successful ranchers, with thousands of cattle and horses, grazing on land grants totaling more than 35,000 acres. This is a rebozo, or shawl, made of cotton and silk. And this is what the rich landowners would wear. The Californio suits. We see a lot of that in the movies and TV. And the trail also came through Clark County. Now, the original mission in 1829 by Armijo did not come through the valley. A well-respected historian researched all of the original documents and determined that the Armijo Trail followed the Virgin River to the Colorado River, came up through the Las Vegas Watch, and went through the southeastern portion of the valley. Let's see. In this case is the ecclesiastical book. And Nuestra Señora de los Dolores, Our Lady of Sorrows, Mexico circa 1825. Baptismal bottle, cruets, bulto of Santa Rita de Casilla, water jug, Paiute dictionary, this is an old spinning wheel used to make the wool threads that were used to make the blankets. And some of the beautiful pottery. Let's see, it says that it is, let's see, there's a scoop there and a pot, and they were of Hopi Pueblo, 19th century origin. So that's it.